Okay, there's nothing wrong with pastors having business on the side and things like that. You know, when I mentioned clothing store in one of my videos, it was a figure of speech. I was just saying, but my main thing was the talk show. Look how all the time that you use to sit down and talk to people. I looked on YouTube and saw a few shows, and it's just like, back in the day I used to watch Jerry Springer and other shows like Judge, and and people have cheating in their marriage and stuff like that. And this is what it is. Did it benefit the audience to know more about God? And the first thing you say is, you can't talk about that on television. About television. That's my point. There's protocols for the secular, and it's okay. Now, I've seen where a lot of nosy people in the world, and so they love to know about what goes on in somebody's family. That's really like being nosy. So when the hosts start spilling out things about, so why did you do that, and things like that, and what caused you, and seeing what they do, they say, well, most ministers are kind of like counselors. So they said, well, I can counsel. It can be like a counsel. Don't be tricked by the enemy. He is smarter than he is very smart. Unless you put on your spiritual antennas, that is a way to distract you. I'm not saying that it may pull you from God, but it's pulling you away from the time that you need to spend more God. Jesus spent more time with God all the time. But I'm just saying, you start talking about their personal life and just blast it out on television, and not one time at the end of the solution have I heard about God. And if that's not the place to do, that's not the place to do it. So, when you go hand in hand like that, this is what I'm saying. You use all that time for that show versus you can have another show. I don't know how many shows you have. I'm not even, but I'm just looking, I'm listening, I'm trying to see. The whole world is, a whole lot of millions of people watching. I'm like, okay, is there a solution? So then you have a doctor on, and I'm like, there's no spiritual, and I'm like, okay, what does that benefit? Money? Is it helping the people? You forgot, when you say yes to the Lord, you're supposed to, your whole business is to be preaching the word of God. You're the one to say yes to God. I mean, if you have if you have other business, a lot of people have business, some have were dentists and something like that. I'm not talking about things like that, and then selling clothes, and you're not there, you have people working for you, and you're sitting there, and that's your time with people of their business, of sex and sexual and homosexual, all these things, their personal lives being blasted, and you sitting there and you're not giving them a solution. You say you rather just hire someone that says, what do you think, or you let them figure it out. If you're going to counsel, then counsel on, that's what you do in private, personal. When you blast that stuff, and then it's like the enemy is using you. Now you spend all your time, a whole hour, whatever, how many days you do it, when you still could be with God. And, people always think, oh, that's just ridiculous. You can't spend, you can say what you want, but I'm seeing it. And not one time I sat there and I looked at 2 shows this morning I'm like, you're not even telling the people about God. Like, they know you're a preacher, and then they want to tune in, but then you're like, well, this is just a talk show. You don't get it. Anyway, I'm just saying, you'll see when that day comes. You're gonna see, that was just a waste of time. No one came to the Lord. No one was converted. That kind of stuff, talk shows, when you talk about people's personal, that's personal. You're competing with Mari and all these other people. A lot of people turn on Mari, they're not being converted for those shows because it's a talk show. And then you like, I said, you too high up, you're not going to see it. Because I can hear it, I can feel it, and I can hear people say, is nothing wrong. All right, I just thought I'd mention that. Enemy smarter than you are. if you're not using your spiritual attendants. You're wasting God's time. Your whole business supposed to be on God. You said you were called. You're the preacher. You're the pastor. Paul and Peter and all, they constantly preach until the day they die. That's what you're supposed to do when you say yes to the Lord. But when you just give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you're lukewarm. You're not doing it. You're supposed to spend your time, and oh gosh, that's why you can't do miracles. You know, you preach. I don't see any miracles. I don't see people being, you know, a word of God to them. It's just, it's worldly. All right, but anyway, I just want to clarify that I wasn't trying to criticize having other businesses, but your whole body is in a place, you know, talking about personal things and cheating and things like that. That's from a pastor. A pastor? You can hate if you want.